Detroit Pistons have one of the worst benches in the NBA. This is one of the problems with Detroit. Jack Kelly, the man from Detroit Bad Boys, posted some stats. The Pistons are 29th in points with 23.3 a game, 30th in field goal percentage at 36, 30th in three-point percentage at 27. God, that is terrible. And then 27th in net rating, minus 7.6 point per 100 possessions. So it's a bad bench unit. We know this. And I mean, Alex Burke is out, Duran's out, Marvin Bagley's out. But let's get into this. What changes would you make to help the second unit? I have one change that I would make. And this is me not taking someone out of the starting lineup yet. This is just another thought that I had. And it's about staggering minutes. Just stagger Cade and Ivy's minutes. Like, don't have one of them just directly play with the second unit, but have their minutes be played with the second unit. So we have another shot creator. We have another guy that can go make shots. That it's not going to bolster the second unit, but it's going to give you another playmaker with some of the second unit guys. That's one idea that I have for the Pistons.
You know what the sad part is?
What's up?
They're already doing that.
They need to do it more then. Okay, they need to do it more so we notice it, or at least I notice it.
Yeah, they've been playing Ivy with Killian lately over the past couple of games. And
I did notice that a little bit more.
They're trying to separate because I think what they understand with Cade and Ivy is, yes, they can play together, but Cade is way more effective when the ball's in his hands.
Yep.
Like when he has to kind of split, I think he's not that he's not capable. I think he's capable, but I think he thrives more with the ball in his hands than playing off the ball. And I think Killian is more comfortable taking a second seat to Ivy because Killian's just not confident in anything he's doing right now offensively. So I think that's why you've been seeing that. If I had to make a change, it's actually calling up Braxton Key.
Oh, okay.
I think that saw a lot out of him in the preseason. Seemed like he's just one of those players where he's at the right place at the right time. I would kind of look at the G League to kind of see what I have there, kind of see, I need more scoring, obviously. Like my 3-point percentage is some of the worst in the league. I'd also give Kevin Knox Hamidou Diallo's minutes. I'd start to split those up because I think Kevin Knox, even though, he makes a lot of bonehead mistakes, he's going to give you more offense than Hamidou Diallo. Hamidou Diallo, I love him. Really great slasher, great athlete, but he kind of shoots himself with a foot sometimes where, if if the defense is ready to meet him at the rim, he's still going to try to dunk it over Evan Mobley. He tried it like 2 times in the game. It's just like I'd rather give the minutes to people on the bench that, give them a shot, see what's there, because it can't hurt, can't get any worse because you're one of the worst benches in the NBA. So you might as well just try throwing something on the wall and see if it will actually stick.
So you're saying check out some players from the G League, give minutes, not give minutes away, but split minutes up and just try other people. That's what you're looking for. And you want to see more minutes for Braxton Key or more minutes for Kevin Knox?
Like I wouldn't give Kevin Knox a whole lot of minutes. Like I said, like if you're giving like Hamidou 10, or let's say you're giving Hamidou 15 tonight, like give Kevin Knox like maybe 6. I
getcha. Okay.
Yeah, like I'm not saying like just get Hamidou out of the starting lineup because I do think he does provide, energy, athleticism, guy that can like really push transition. It's just he can't be your first option off the bench. He just can't. And I think that's a big reason why the bench is failing too.
So let's get into like the more extreme ways of fixing the bench. If you would you replace a starter with a player off the bench? If so, who and who? I saw a couple people talking about this, and it's a thought that I've had before. I don't really love it. I'd rather see him in the starting lineup personally, and that's bringing Sadiq Bey off the bench. Like putting Isaiah Livers in at the starting lineup, which I don't really love right at this moment, even though as you know, I am very high on Isaiah Livers. Very high on Isaiah Livers. Love the kid because we're from the same place.
Yeah.
want to say it so many more times, but you had him in your starting lineup. You said it, you wouldn't be surprised if he somehow made the starting lineup. You tweeted that out at the beginning of the year. You've talked about it on this podcast. I don't love it, but I've seen it from other people. Bring Sadiq Bey off because Sadiq Bey he's kind of like the odd man out with Cade and Jaden Ivey because he's still trying to do too much. He gets like tunnel vision. He's trying to be the guy instead of being the 3-and-D guy that we want back. But what about you? Would you replace a starter, bring them off the bench, and bring someone else? Or would you keep it the same?
I would move Isaiah Stewart to the bench.
Okay.
And I would start Duran
with
Caden Ivey because I think just like in the limited time that I've seen them play together, I always feel good about them playing together because I feel like they feed off each other and they really communicate. Like to me, I feel like Cade, Ivey, and Duran are probably, and Bogey, obviously, some of the best communicators on this basketball team. And it kind of gives them more size up front, a guy that can protect the rim, a guy that when that jump shot starts falling, man, it looks pretty. Like he's done it a couple times this year where he kind of backs down on the post and he shoots it. I'm like, man, if that goes in, you got a problem.
But does moving Isaiah Stewart help the bench out?
I think it does a little bit.
Because that's kind of that's the idea I'm trying. That's the question. When I'm asking that question, I'm also asking, you're taking a starter out of the lineup and you're putting him on the bench. Does it help the bench? Not so like I believe Duran over Isaiah Stewart helps the starting lineup. I just don't know. And we've talked about Stewart coming off the bench as well, but I don't know. I just don't know if he's that. I don't know. We kind of flirted with the idea. Like, is he that good of an offensive player right now? Because he is looking for a shot that he'd be better off the bench in that type of like high energy role type or what? So I don't know. Does Isaiah Stewart help the bench out though if he comes off with the second unit?
I think he does. And I mean, I've even seen fans saying when Bagley comes back, throw Bogdanovich off the bench with the second unit. I mean, I think that makes the most rational sense because he's averaging the most points almost right next to Cade on the team. He's probably your best offensive threat on the team, and having a player of his caliber off the bench of where he's kind of played most of his career off the bench or in a six-man type role would make a lot of sense. But the current state the Pistons are have right now kind of has to start because the offense is kind of stagnant outside of him and Cade.
But do you think that Bogdanovich, I'm gonna call him Bogey. Do you think Bogey makes when I think of a six man, I think of a guy that's creating his own shot. And Bogey right now with the Pistons, I feel like most of his points are coming off others creating shots for him and him creating space for himself. Like we were talking last podcast, how he was communicating with Isaiah Stewart on a screen. He's doing things like that. So do you think he's still good enough at create his own shot to be a six-man for this Pistons team? Or, I mean, I like him more just because I think he plays off of Cade, Ivey, and Stewart so well. I like him in that starting lineup, and I just want to see that keep going for him. I just don't think I just don't think he can is that good of creating his own shot now. Or I guess I haven't seen it, I shouldn't say that, to be a six-man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he can thrive if he's on the bench or off the bench. I think he's just a really smart, crafty player. Most of those European players are. I wouldn't really be too worried if he's starting or coming off the bench personally. But, I mean, before the Nets played Cameron Thomas, I would have said, hey, go trade for Cam Thomas. He's not happy. But Brooklyn's giving him minutes now, and he's cooking.
You said 17 and 21 in back-to-back games. Yeah. But this is why I think Sadiq Bey would be better off the bench because – the way he's playing offense right now, he's trying to create a lot of offense for himself. And I feel like when he is creating offense for himself like that, it's becoming a black hole and disrupting everything they're trying to do with the starters, with that first unit. So even though I don't love the idea of Sadiq Bey being a six-man, I just think the way he's playing basketball where he's getting the ball, he's getting ran off the three-point line, and then he's trying to drive a lot. If he's trying to create his own shot and he's trying to create his own offense, let him do that in the second unit where they need someone to do that.
Yeah, my only problem with that is the Livers would do the same damn thing, though. Like,
except that starting lineup?
I think Livers, if you put him in the starting lineup in Sadiq's role, what Livers would probably do is take threes that aren't high percentage shots, because I've seen that from him off the bench, or to probably try to do the same thing Sadiq does. And it's just you're put in that spot where the defense is paying attention to Cade and Ivy and Bogey, and you're trying to make something happen. And I just don't think I don't really blame for Sadiq for that. The only thing that I would say is frustrating with him as a player is when he tries to force something inside when there's about three bodies around him.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. And like I said, I don't really think it's something whether you plug Sadiq there, whether you plug Marvin Bagley at the four. I think it just depends on which player you want to put there. Like, you got to pick your poison. Like, Isaiah Livers is a really good 3-point shooter. We know that. Marvin Bagley, really good in the post. Not really a 3-point shooter. Sadiq Bey is, kind of an average 3-point shooter. We've seen his percentages dip over the, last year or so. He's starting to put, more of a package together, like around the rim where, kind of a post game. It's still evolving, but like, it's not perfect. And I just don't think if you kind of experiment with that, that's not the position I would look to kind of bring off the bench. But that's just me, though.
No, I get it. But what if the Pistons went with the lineup where it was Cade and Ivy in the backcourt? We're not changing that. Bogey at the 3, but then Stewart and Duren, and then they brought Sadiq Bey off the bench with Marvin Bagley.
Man, this is some wild ass shit.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I'm trying to think of the best way to fix the bench, you put in a defensive guy like Duren that can anchor it, and then you get a shot creator or maker in Sadiq Bey with another offensive guy like Marvin Bagley. Because right now, Marvin Bagley and Sadiq Bey, they're not very good defenders either. Like, if Sadiq Bey is not hitting shots with that unit of Cade and Ivy, what else does he bring to the team? That's kind of more, I guess, what I'm getting at too when we're talking about Sadiq Bey coming off the bench. Now I'm kind of going all over the place. I apologize for that.
Oh, it's so good. No, like it when you're trying to think of it and rationalize why you would bring Sadiq off the bench, I could see where you're coming from because, outside of the Warriors game, sometimes when you do look at the box score and you do watch him play, he'll take 18 shots and he's got 20 points. To your point, I think the next stage of his development is finishing around the rim at a higher percentage and starting to pass if nothing's there. Because he does force a lot of shots that are low percentage shots really close to the basket when there's 2-3 defenders. And that will come with time. That'll come with, more reps, playing with Ivy and Cade and Bogdanovich and Stewart. He's not a finished product. But I think to your point, you did say Stewart and Duren, and you could, I don't know, throw Sadiq out there at the 3. Well, if he had those at the 4 and 5 and had Bogey at the 3, see that's where it just kind of gets wild to me.
Yeah,
because you gotta hope that Stewart's like league average from 3 for it to work. Because if he's not, then you're kind of like, I hate to even like compare. I'm not comparing the two, but it kind of feels like Andre Drummond and Josh Smith and Greg Monroe. Like, it's not even the same because Bogdanovich is a better shooter, but like that's where I get like PTSD of like that lineup.
But isn't it it's kind of cool too that we're talking about it when we're thinking about if they do have all these guys and they get Duren, Bagley, and Alec Burke backs. We're talking like, 8 men deep now. We got some fun different lineups and combinations we can throw out on the floor that are gonna be a little bit more exciting for the Pistons. Like that, I guess that's what I'm taking the most away from it. Like, because I'm listening to you and you're just like, man, this is kind of wild. Like, we're talking about Bogey starting, then you can have a 3-headed monster of these guys coming off the bench, or we can play these 3. It's kind of cool, like to be able to, when you have a healthy team, it's a lot more fun to discuss them.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I've even seen people say start Bagley at the 4. I have Bagley and Bogey and Isaiah Stewart is, your 3, 4, and 5. And then, obviously you have Duren off the bench still.
So what do you think the consensus is with Pistons fans? Do you think Pistons fans are starting to lean towards Sadiq Bey coming off the bench? Because I saw a little bit of that on social media. Like, I mean, is talking about Sadiq Bey coming off the bench, is that a fair topic in your eyes with Pistons fans, or do you think it's just completely out there and we shouldn't even be talking about it?
I think when you're 2-8, I mean, everything's on the table.
Okay.
I mean, if they were above 500, or they were winning basketball games and they were competing for a playoff spot, then I think maybe it'd be a little bit, I don't want to say crazy, but kind of like a hot take. But I mean, when you're 2-8 within your first 10 games, I don't think you're going to see a lineup change yet. But if you don't, you're not winning games, and you don't even have 10 wins within like the first 30 games of the season, then yeah, you have to make a lineup change. You have to make a trade. You have to do something, because Pistons fans aren't going to be quiet about it. You know that. We both know that, how vocal they are on social media at the games. They're not happy with the product on the floor. And you have to do something. You have to, whether it's staggering minutes, like you said, with Jaden Ivey, because you don't like him and Cade playing together, because we both agree Cade's better with the ball in his hands
Much
most
better.
of the time. You have to do something as a coaching staff to try to change something. Because I think we can both agree 2-8 to start up the season, even though this is a rebuilding team, there were a lot of winnable games within the first 10 games. I think we both agree they should have won the Pacers game.
Yep.
I think they should have won the Bucks game, but like I said, that's what happens when you switch everything. You're leaving Brook Lopez wide open for 3, and that's not a guy to leave open.
No, it's not.
Like they could have 4 wins instead of 2.
Yeah, no, they could be. Yeah, you're right. They could. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. You're right. There's so much you could do when you're a 2-8 team. Nothing is off the table, but